rather than the main point of this video, the main thing I'm focusing on. Everyone must be afraid. And the reason I came to that conclusion, also I'm not sure this light is, you guys can see me, but the reason, darker, I'm sorry. Now the reason why I was thinking about that, the reason why I believe that everyone must be afraid, and they just don't know it, well, they rush everywhere. They rush for everything. And you wanna know what's proof that people rush? If you go around for a drive, right? You'll see people speeding every single time. You probably speed, I don't know. But yeah, people speed all the time. All the time. Also, I might turn this bright, make this a bit brighter. Give me a second. Hold on. Wait. Alright, there we go. It's better. Now, people rush everywhere, okay? People rush everywhere. For every single reason they rush. Yo, may I actually set the thumbnail to like... What should I set the thumbnail to? It'll be like... Well, so how does my hair look? Looks fine. Okay, now people rush everywhere. They're always in a rush. People rush when making videos. You see it every time you watch a video on YouTube. Everybody's like, they don't pause. But that's not natural. People pause all the time, right? Yeah. So they must be afraid. That's what I think. They've got to be scared. Why is everyone acting like this, right? They must be afraid. They must be afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of being late, and afraid of missing out. Why is everyone afraid? You know? Why is everyone afraid? I'm gonna adjust this light a bit more. Sorry. Figure it out. Hold on a second. There we go. I'm a bit happier with that angle of the lighting and how I look. Yeah, I'm not a liar. I'm focusing on how I look right now with this light. That's the only reason I adjusted it. Okay, so where was I? Okay, people must be afraid of everything because they rush for everything. They change everything. Like I'm changing everything right now. Now, I must be concerned and unhappy with the way this looks, the way the color looks, you know, the way the light hits my face. I must be thinking about it a lot. Now I think warm colors help me think, but this is too warm. So, basically, let me just focus. The reason why everyone is afraid, and why I think everyone's afraid. Alright, explain that. So, explain like this. Everybody rushes for friends. Everybody rushes. They rush for sex. They rush for work. They rush for school. They rush for rest. They rush, but they never rush for you. Now, I don't know why I didn't just simply read the notes I had here, because I completely forgot I had notes there. So everybody's rushing. They're rushing for selfish reasons, even though they'll say it's not selfish. People always be saying, "Oh, why don't you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Why don't you have a girlfriend? Do you have friends? Why don't you have friends?" They're afraid. The whole, like, society as a whole, and we'll call it the big propaganda machine. There's been a big push for people to be concerned about having friends. Concerned about having a girlfriend. Or a boyfriend. And they're all concerned. Hey, I'm writing this joke. They're all concerned, right? They're all so worried about being alone. And if they generally feel like there's something wrong with them for not having friends, and they genuinely think there's something wrong with them for not being in a relationship, is that not a fear? Are they not afraid? Because it causes them to act in a way where they rush, you know, where they're scared, as if they act frantic. They go run looking for a girlfriend. So aren't they afraid? They go run around looking for friends. So aren't they afraid? They're afraid of having no friends. They're afraid of having no partner. They're afraid of being alone. But why are they afraid to be alone? Because they're scared of themselves. They must be scared of who they are as a person. If you aren't comfortable with yourself, then you've got a lot to work on. If you are not comfortable with yourself, the only reason someone's going to be afraid to be alone is because they don't like being in their own company. And why don't you like being in your own company? No. Why don't you like it? Why don't you like being in your own company? What's wrong with you as a person? Why would you be afraid to be alone? And maybe what it is you're not afraid of being alone. You're not afraid of being in your own company. Maybe you're just tired of being alone. And I suppose being tired of being alone, that's probably the best reason to get friends. Because if you're tired of being alone and you want to try something new, go get friends. By all means, go get friends. But don't do anything because you're afraid. And don't do nothing. It's just, come on. How can someone tell me that it doesn't seem like everyone's afraid? How can someone tell me it doesn't, like, I don't know, I think everyone to a certain extent knows what I'm talking about. I think everyone knows what I'm saying right now. Everyone knows it's true. Because everybody acts like they're scared. Why are people rushing on the road all the time? Why are they always driving so fast? They're speeding. Always. Why are people speeding? Because they find it fun to speed? Alright, well, apart from the crowd that finds it fun to speed, why are these people going to work? They speed to work. They speed to go work, then they speed to come home. They go to sleep, and they do it all over again, and they don't even know why they're doing it. They're doing it because they were told that that's what they should be doing. They were told that that's what they should be doing. Going to work to get food. Eating food to be able to go to work. Going to food to eat food, eating food to go to work, all ultimately for the goal of dying. So congratulations, you worked 50 years. You came to work, you showed up, you worked 50 years. Here's your reward, here's death. That's your gift. You're working to die. Everyone's just working to die. Rushing through life, missing it all, just to die. Have you even experienced life? If you just go and your whole purpose is to go work so you can live, are you even living? Because you're not free, and if you're not free, are you alive? How can you be alive if you're not free? Oh. How can you be alive if you're not free? And if you're not free, how can you be alive? Oh, this guy's under something. Yeah, maybe I am and maybe I'm not. It's like, listen, man, let me explain something to you. I have goals in life that I want to achieve. And by all means, I'm going to try and achieve those goals, right? But for 3 nights, I had no sleep. Why? Because I was busy doing something. And what was I doing? Something I was having fun. I was enjoying. I was writing. I was reading. I was making videos. My last video I made, I hadn't slept for a fair bit. I made the last video where I made one, no one loves you and hating yourself makes it true, right? But I'm not afraid of sleeping in, because what am I going to miss? If I'm asleep, I'm not going to miss anything, because either way you have to sleep, right? And if I'm asleep, I'm not going to miss anything. And if I miss something, oh well, so be it. Time's not going anywhere. Time is not going anywhere. People think that time waits for no man. That's true, but if you're always trying to chase time, you're never going to catch it. You just got to live. And the only real way to live is to have life. And the only real way to have life, you need to have something. You need to have someone, right? But now the person says I'm contradicting myself, what I said, right? But the thing is, the life I'm talking about is true life. And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And if you don't have Jesus Christ, you don't have life. If you truly... So when I said people are rushing to die, that's actually only necessarily true for those of us who don't believe in Jesus, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because if you don't believe and don't trust in Jesus Christ, first of all, let me get away from that for a moment. Let me get away from that for a moment before I lose you. If you rush around in life and you die, and there is no afterlife, you're doing it for nothing. And you'll say, okay, well, you're doing it for your children. Okay, and you're doing it for your children so they can do it for their children, so they can do it for their children, all the way to the last man from your bloodline. So you could have done it all for nothing. It's all for nothing. Everything on this earth is for nothing, because everything on this earth is temporary, except for the relationships that you have and make with your Christian brothers. So I suppose that'll be the next video I make. Let me write that down real quick, because that's the bar right there. Okay, so everything, and look, I'm not going to rush writing. You guys can wait here with me while we do this. We can do this together. Everything on earth is temporary, except for friends / relationships. All right. Now I think about that, everything, people really must be afraid. Now, maybe this fear that they have of being alone, maybe that's actually a good thing. Because I just realized, if they're afraid of being alone, why are they afraid of being alone? Because company with other people in this life, it's actually the only thing that matters, right? And first of all, we need to have company with life. And whose life? Jesus Christ. John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father except through me. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So we have to know Jesus to have life. And now that we have life, we can go meet other people who also are alive. So now when you make a relationship, you form a relationship, a friendship, a bond with someone else, that will last forever, for eternity, right? So, maybe the reason why people are afraid of being alone is because they know that that's what's going to happen when they die, is they're going to be alone, right? So Christians, people who trust in Jesus, people who have salvation, have eternal life. I'm not trying to offend anyone here, but it is true that if you don't have Jesus, you don't have eternal life. It's like me saying if you don't have oil in a car, the car's not going to be able to drive. It's just like that, okay? So basically, relationships are the only thing in life that matters. And if people say, well, that's not true because I don't need anyone. Well, you need Jesus. So that's relationships. So a relationship with God, with your Creator, is the only thing that matters. So everyone is afraid. Even on a subconscious level, we all must be afraid of being alone. Even when we like to be alone, we only like to be alone because it contrasts the noise of being with a crowd, right? But imagine having that one friend, that one person you can be open and honest with 100% of the time, and they won't judge you or lose respect for you, because they're actually a person who understands that, yeah, I've said the N-word before as well. I'm not perfect. And anyone, let me quickly clarify, because people are gonna be like, well, wow, you're such an evil, bad dude. Anyone who says they've never said the N-word before in their life, they're lying. Especially if you grew up in the era of video games and Xbox Live. If you grew up around that time and that sort of, I guess, that environment, you would have heard someone say the N-word. And if you didn't even know what the N-word meant, you would have asked, what does that word mean? So the N-word is just another word. Now, to all the people watching this, I do not condone racism, and I'm not a racist. And I'll explain why I have said the N-word. I've said it in a non-demeaning way, and I never said it to someone of a darker color. But basically what I'm trying to say is this. I've only used it as a term of endearment. The way they'll say, yo, it's good, my brother, you know? Stuff like that. What's up, bro? Term of endearment, right? That's the only way I've used the word. And here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Even if someone else has used a word in a way to be offensive, what about F word? What about the F word? What about someone saying F you? Do you forgive them? Or not? Alright, so you have to forgive people. And not forgiving people is the biggest way to get yourself in a bad situation. Because you don't forgive someone, that's gonna you not forgiving someone for doing wrong to you. That's you letting them leave their mark on you. That unforgiveness, that's like a scar. Unforgiveness is a scar. I'm gonna write that down as well. Unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is a scar. So I suppose it's like a video diary / a journal. So you guys get to see into my life, which is kind of cool. I want to see into your life. Can I see into your life? Because at the end of the day, everyone's afraid of being alone, right? Everyone must be afraid. They all rush for friends. They all rush for sex. They all rush for work. They rush for school. They rush for rest so they can do it all over again. They say nothing lasts forever. Alright, but how can you... Listen, how can you actually enjoy your life if you know you're forced to go somewhere later on? I still can't go with the fact that people don't understand how dumb it is and people still play this game. People still play this game. It's because it's established, it's safe, and it's fairly comfortable enough, it's tolerable. But how can you stand this life? How can you stand it? How can you stand the system? It's just been, I guess it was established, it's been established for a couple hundred years now, and people have just accepted it. We've no longer wanted to change the ways we live, right? Why don't we want to change the ways we live? I don't understand it, right? Communism is a failed attempt. Communism is bad, right? But I think that farming and homesteading and making your own stuff, I think it's good for you. And I think that we should just go back to living in our own little houses with our own farms. And when we make friends with people. And because there aren't so many... The fact that there are laws, though, that's some of the only reasons why some people don't do things that they know are wrong in the heart, is because they know they'll go to jail. So just remember, you're walking around with people who the only reason they aren't doing something to you is because it'll affect them in the future negatively. That's the only reason some people don't do wrong. It's the same, I suppose I might as well say this now, even though it's kind of off topic. It's the same reason why a Christian who understands that they could sin all they want and still go to heaven, and they avoid sin because they love God. But a Christian who thinks that they can lose their salvation and they can't do any sin or they lose their salvation, they're not saved, first of all. And the second thing is that they love their sin. And the only reason they don't commit sin is because they love themselves. That's it. So, yeah. But basically, what I'm trying to explain throughout the whole video is that it really does seem to me that everyone has a fear of being alone, and they all deny it, and they say, no, what? I'm not afraid of being alone. Look, I have friends. I have friends. I'm not afraid of not having a girlfriend. I have a girlfriend. I have a wife. I have 5 girlfriends. Right? Whoa, you got 5 big problems. But, look, they're all saying, I'm not afraid because, look, I'm not afraid of being alone because I have friends. I'm not afraid of heights because I'm low. That's what they're saying, right? But you put them in a situation where they're alone and all of a sudden they're afraid, they're uncomfortable. But why are you uncomfortable and why are you afraid? Is because you're actually afraid of yourself. You're afraid of yourself and you just don't know it. You're afraid of yourself. You're afraid to sit alone in a room with yourself because when you're with yourself, you know that you know what you've done, you know what you've looked at, you know what you've seen, and you don't forgive yourself for it. And that's why you're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being alone because you don't like spending time with the person you are. Everyone is afraid of being alone because they don't like spending time with the person that they are. All right? Everybody's flexing money. Everybody's flexing going to parties and being around so many people. Everyone's flexing that. But you know what? That's not the real flex. The real flex in this world is peace. Being at peace with yourself. Being at peace with God. Knowing who you are as a person, as a woman, as a man. Knowing who you are as a man or as a woman. Dude, if you have peace with yourself, if you're at peace with God, you can be at peace with yourself. If you're not at peace with yourself, maybe you're not at peace with God. And if you're not at peace with God or at peace with yourself, then even when you are with others and you think you're at peace, at the end of the day, we know that you dread going back home, going to be alone by yourself, because you know that you're not at peace with yourself. You have no peace with yourself, so you go to others to look for peace. So, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, that's basically it, man. like, I don't want to make videos too long because then no one's going to watch them. So I think 20 minutes is a good length. But yeah, people are afraid. They're afraid of being alone, and they're afraid of other people who are afraid of being alone. They're afraid to be judged by someone who's afraid of being judged. You're afraid of being judged by someone who is afraid to be judged, and you're afraid to be alone because you don't want to be judged by the person who is afraid to be alone. If your reaction to being afraid of heights is going low to the ground, it's the same exact thing as if your reaction to being afraid of being alone is to go be around others, then you're not conquering your fear. And you're going to live in fear for the rest of your life. And if you don't conquer that fear, you'll never be free because the fear will control you. If you let fear control your life is going to be terrible. Your life will be shit. Excuse the language, I don't like swearing. I'm trying my best, but that's the best way I can explain it, is your life will be shit. If you live by your fear, if you are driven by fear, you're not really living. In your mind, subconsciously, I guess even in an animalistic way, if you're living and you're driven by fear, you're not living. You are surviving. So we're all just here surviving. But yeah, until you can be at peace with God and at peace with yourself, you'll always be afraid of being alone, and you'll always be alone, even in a crowd. Because the only one who can actually help you be at peace with yourself and not feel alone is Jesus Christ. You need to be with Jesus. You don't need to be with others. If you have peace with God, you have peace with yourself. And if you have peace with yourself, you can have peace with others. And you won't dread going back to being by yourself. So that's my message to the world for today. My message is that I love you. Viewer, you are appreciated. Yeah. I feel like, I guess people just don't hear that enough. You are appreciated. And I appreciate you. So thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you a lot. And also, chances are, look, if you think you're ugly, you're probably not ugly, right? Most people are genuinely pretty attractive. But they just don't think they are, right? Even like a lot of guys, they think that, oh, they're ugly. No. Most people in this life, like most people are pretty attractive people. Like normal people, bro, like you're normal. You're normal. And normal people aren't ugly. So don't be afraid of being normal, because normal people aren't ugly. Normal people are quite nice. But yeah, it's not about how you look. Again, it's not about how you look. It's about who you are and who you know. So you need Jesus. But I appreciate you and I love you. Thank you for watching, eh? Yeah. Hey, why not subscribe, actually? Yeah, thank you. But it's up to you. That was a little... Yeah, I guess it's time to end it.